I'm on the box of Black Barbie, but like, while still dealing with insecurities. Like I still was being raised with people who didn't look like me. So that was also kind of interesting too, because it's not like I was on the back of a Barbie box and like thought I was like, you know, cute and amazing. I still was like an awkward person, like, you know, whose mom didn't look anything like me and was struggling to like find my own place in life and family.
Today's guest is best described as a multifaceted force of nature. Hayley Marie Norman is an actor, writer, activist, and podcast host. She's lit up the screen with Hollywood legends Will Smith, Chris Rock, and Eddie Murphy, to name a few. And in her wildly entertaining podcast called Datemare with Hayley Marie Norman, she brings her effervescence and humor to discussing her dating life post-divorce with notable guests and tales that will shock and delight. And as an activist in Hollywood, Hayley uses her platform to share the vegan message and shine a light on the cruelty and environmental destruction for which animal agriculture is responsible. Hayley is a profound and complex human who's done a lot of living and learning. So today, Dotsie and I are very excited to take a deep dive into everything from activism to adventure to affairs of the heart. Welcome, Hayley, to our podcast.
Oh my gosh, that intro was incredible. Like, what did you call me? You called me like an effervescent force of nature or something.
Yeah.
Like, if that's not on my tombstone, I'm gonna be pissed.
That needs to stick.
Well, I think everyone listening is going to agree by the end of this show. So,
oh my gosh. Well, thank you so much. And thank you for having me. I like cannot wait to be here. I'm so excited.
Well, we want to cover a bunch of things. So let's start with your vegan journey first, since this is a podcast that often focuses on plant-based stuff. So you went vegan, I think the same year that I did, and Dotsie might have gone a year before, but did you go vegan in 2010?
So wait, hold on.
Yes, you did. I did my research.
Oh, 50, so 2010. Oh my gosh, that's so good. Because sometimes I wonder, I'm like, when is my vegan anniversary? So I thought this September was going to be 15 years, but maybe I'm wrong. So
no, I don't want to take any years away from you. So maybe I did the math wrong when I was reading the articles, and they were saying Hayley Marie Norman's been vegan for 7 years. I might have done the math wrong, but tell us about,
it's at least 13.
Yes. It's at least 13. And also I have 2 rescue dogs and they're turning 12. So I'm like wanting to make sure that I'm not conflating like my rescue like with my dog rescue date with my vegan date. But I'm pretty sure I'm turning 15 years old in vegan years this September.
Okay. Happy birthday. Awesome.
Thank you.
So you're ahead of Dotsie and me. I have an October 10th vegan birthday.
Love it.
2010. Dotsie, were you 2009?
No, 2010. I don't have a day because it was like a little bit of it's about a month-long journey of like WTF as I'm eating foods out. But yeah, same 2010 as you.
Oh my gosh. What's so funny is like my podcast Datemare is all about dating and stuff. And I remember like who I was dating when I went vegan. So now I have to go back. That's how I'll do it. I'll go back and look through photos and be like, this is the year I was dating this person. Okay, I know my vegan date now.
Cool. So tell us about what happened. What made you go vegan? Apparently a friend sent you a book and it turned you vegan then and there.
Yes. And what's so funny is, what I love about my vegan journey is I'm a Black woman, right? And so when I first went vegan, it was this whole idea that I was like betraying my culture almost, or like, how can you be vegan? You're Black. And what's so cool is that now Black people are the largest growing group of vegans, and really making an impact in the vegan world. And I have so many friends that are like Italian or whatever, they're from Louisiana, like whatever their culture is, they're like, they think like, oh, I can't be vegan because I'm Southern. I can't be vegan because I'm Cuban. I can't be like, there's so many just like kind of labels and identity things that we hold on to. So I say all that to say, I actually had no interest in being vegan before I went vegan, which I think is the story for all of us, except that I have always been an animal lover, like always. And so when I was in high school, I did like a quick little vegetarian stint, which was just me eating saltines. Like, I really think I just ate saltines. And that didn't last. But then I said, okay, well, pigs are my favorite, so I'm not going to eat anything made out of pigs. So I always had that real, like, because some people just have such cognitive dissonance. Like, they love dogs, they love cat, they love all these animals, but they're like completely zoned out on the fact that all animals are just like the dog that you love. Like, they're all like really beautiful sentient beings. And so I always had that. I was always acutely aware of what I was consuming. So then I started again dating someone who was vegan, but I did not go vegan because of him. We kind of like didn't even really talk about it that much, but I was so kind of weirdly anti-vegan at the time that we went to Real Food Daily on La Cienega here in Los Angeles. And I didn't realize that there wouldn't be any like quote unquote, like regular options. And I was modeling at the time. So I was like having to be really careful about what I ate. And at the time I was like, okay, like higher protein, lower carbs, so like really kind of obsessed with that. So when I saw the menu, I was so upset. And I remember I was like so hungry. I started crying and I was like, I literally cannot eat here. Like they don't have chicken on the menu. Like we have to leave. And I went home and made oatmeal for dinner. And someone pointed out to me, well, oatmeal's vegan. So you went home and had a vegan meal anyway. I was like, damn it, you're right. But a friend of mine went vegan and she's always been kind of like an out there friend. So I was like, oh, she's doing another one of her things. But she sent me a book called Skinny Bitch about veganism. And I immediately identified with every aspect of it. And I read it in one day and went vegan that day and haven't looked back.
Wow. You know, I wanted to ask you, we have had some wonderful, powerful Black vegans on our show.
Amazing.
I have learned over these interviews, since we always do a deep dive on food, because that's who we are at Switch4Good. And I've learned from them, and it makes complete sense, but it's shocking to some, really, that the indigenous African foods were mostly vegan. And the Southern food, which is what I grew up on too, chitlins and all of it, growing up in Kentucky, they have said is literally that slave food.
Exactly. It was the food that was like forced upon us during, when Black people were enslaved. Yeah.
So I don't even know if we've ever asked this question of the folks that have sort of, gone in a little bit of a deep dive to share that with us. Like, what's your connection then? Like when you realized that, or maybe you knew that from day one, eating soul food, but what is your connection to that now? Like, how do those foods make you feel? And what do you say to your friends who are like, no, that this is our indigenous food, pork and all the fixins?
Well, and all the vixens, that's so funny. That's how they say it in the South. Well, Erykah Badu has this great quote that's something along the lines of, vegan food or plant-based eating is the original soul food. And it's true because it is. And I always, when I think about veganism, I think about the government, the higher forces that be here poisoning us for profit, because that's essentially what is happening and what has happened since the beginning of time. And I think, when, Black people were uprooted in the most brutal way possible and forced to come to America and start their lives over, like, I can't even imagine what, like, even though those are my ancestors, like, I can't even imagine the brutality. And so I think that there was a level of, you have to find joy and survive in whatever way you can when your circumstances are so brutal. I think that there was a level of like, okay, well, this is what we're given and we're going to make best with what we have. And then, like anything, these things get handed down generation to generation. But I think that there is like a global awakening, because it's the same with religion too. Like, religion was forced on slaves during slavery. Like, there's so much. Right. And I think that there's like a conscious awakening happening globally.
And I've heard you say that you're the Black side of your family because your mom is a white European, right?
Yeah, yeah.
And your dad is from Jamaica?
No,
No,
my dad is from San Diego.
San Diego. Okay, so he's from San Diego. But
Yeah.
he's Black.
Yeah, my dad is Black, and my whole Black side of the family is actually very supportive of my veganism. I think I do make that joke about the Black side of my family has had an intervention, but the truth is that my Black side of the family has really embraced veganism and vegan food. And so has my white side of the family, actually, which is super cool. My mom is vegan, and her boyfriend is vegan, and her boyfriend is like this carpenter, like just like kind of the last person that you would expect to be a vegan. Like, I don't even know how to describe him because he is his own person, but he's also vegan. So really, I've influenced so many people in my family to start eating plant-based, which is awesome.
Yeah. Did you have any challenges when you first did it, or did you read that book and you're like, that is just 100% resonates with me, like you said? Or were there foods you missed, and did it take a hot minute, or was this just like overnight?
I think this, for me, it was this, I would always say, like, once you learn, you can't unlearn. So
Yeah.
as soon as I realized what was happening in factory farming and animal agriculture, I was immediately like, no. So there's no way I could crave a hamburger when I know that there's pieces of over 300 different cows that were put in the grinder to make that hamburger. Like, I can't just look at a hamburger and be like, that looks delicious. I look at it and I see a slaughterhouse. So for me, there was absolutely no turning back. And you really only crave what you eat. So like, once I stopped eating it, like after a while, it's like, I don't even remember what those foods taste like, nor do I want to remember,
You said that you had been on a sort of a high fat or high protein diet, low carb. How did you adjust when it came to veganism? Were you still on that way of eaing?
No, and that's another thing that I actually really like about the book Skinny Bitch, and I haven't reread it since that first read, which was like 13 to 15 years ago. So I don't want to sound like an explicit, like come off as like a super advertisement for that book, because I have no idea how it holds up. Like, it might hold up amazing. I don't know how it holds up. Like, so much in the culture has changed, but I will say too that book addressed health as a whole. And at the time, because I was making so much of my living modeling, I was drinking a lot of like diet right soda, which is this diet soda, but it doesn't have like soda. I can't even remember, but it's like a diet soda that doesn't bloat you. Like, and I was drinking so much of that, like just eating all these diet foods. There was this yogurt called Carbolite. I don't know if you guys remember Carbolite, but it had like, I would go get like a giant thing of Carbolite frozen yogurt and like eat that for dinner every day. So I was like, why do I feel like crap? Oh, because I'm putting all this crap in my body. And like, I would drink the diet right, and I would get a headache, and then I would take Advil. And so for me, it was this full body cleanse. And now I only for so long now, it's like, I really only put like real foods in my body.
I think that book by Rory Friedman, and somebody who actually was a modeling agent herself.
Oh my gosh.
Not Rory, but her co-author. And I'm embarrassed that but I know Rory, so that's why I remember her name. But it's a great book. It's very.
Does it hold up?
I mean, I haven't read it since probably when you read it, but I would think it does. I mean, she's straight talking, broad. So what changed for you when you went vegan? You talked about how you feel better, but
yes, I immediately started feeling better. And when I say feeling better, I mean like feeling better in truly a holistic way. So it wasn't just that I had less headaches but also I mentally felt so much better. And I'm such an energetic sponge. And as woo-woo as it might sound, I do believe that when I was consuming, products from a slaughterhouse, when I was consuming animal products who died in fear, I was literally putting that inside of my body. And the most intimate relationship we have is our relationship with our food. And yet people ignore it. We all are guilty of like eating on the go and just like shoving some stuff down our throat, whether it's vegan or not. But I think it's great to have a level of consciousness that you are aware that you are in like a relationship with the food you choose to eat. So it also just really helps me on a mental level. And also I think it's great, like in a time now where it feels like everything is so out of control. I'm an actor and a writer. The unions are on strike. We're being faced with artificial intelligence. Like the globe is hotter than it's ever been before. Like things seem really scary and they seem out of control. And I think we're so often left of feeling like, well, what can I do? And something that always brings me back to feeling like that I do have some control over this insanity that we're living in right now is like, well, great, I'm vegan. Great. What else can I do to make my lifestyle more sustainable? And even though I do believe that it's on, the onus needs to be on the corporations and our government to really change things, just knowing that in my own household, I'm not contributing to that helps me too.
I'm glad you brought up the strike because I'm so curious. I guess I could have just asked Alexandra since she's an actress, but I'm so curious about what is the day-to-day like for you now as far as working goes.
So my strike story has been insane, which is that I actually needed to get, and I thought about this when I was, when I knew I was coming on the show, because since you guys talk about health, I actually had to get a hip replacement. I'm in my 30s and I had to get a hip replacement. And so I have spent this time recovering. I'm 4 weeks out now. So I got it like the WGA was already striking. And I think it was right before SAG went on strike, or like, I can't remember the timeline because it was such, because my level of pain was so terrible. But that has also been interesting, like, because I'm so mentally engaged in it and almost everyone in my life is in the business in some capacity. So it's like, I open my Instagram, I'm texting with my friends and everything is related to the entertainment industry. And it feels so scary. Like I grew up in this business. I've been doing it since I was 7. And so feeling like, is everything like crumbling beneath us? Like, this is like, it's unprecedented in a new way. Like I understand that there are things that are repeating themselves with this strike, with last strikes, and that with, hopefully we get what we're asking for, but it does feel like a really scary time. And so I've been having to kind of mentally go in and out of like being so upset about it and wanting to be on the picket lines and also having to listen to my body. And like, my doctor was like, you literally cannot go on the picket lines. Like you will collapse. I'm not allowing you to go. And trying to also take care of my mental health during all of this, which doesn't mean that I've mastered that. Like like when there's obviously such a connection between mental and physical health. And so having a hip replacement while we're in this insane strike actually was like an intersection for like a lot of mental duress for me, but I'm working on like coming out of it as I start to physically feel better and mentally starting to feel better too. But really just finding that balance of like being engaged and also knowing that I need to take care of myself.
Wow, Hayley, you've gone through a lot of stuff in the last couple of
Yeah.
because you got divorced.
Oh yeah.
One of your closest friends died.
Yeah.
And so you've been in a period of deep self-reflection. I can imagine that this also just is a period of reflection when you can't use your body and go out and, distract yourself with socializing and things like that, that this must be just a growing, reflecting time.
Exactly. Yeah, I definitely. Yeah, it's a crazy time. I also wanted to say that my friend that you mentioned who passed away, her name was Mercedes Lianza, and I inspired her to go vegan too, which is amazing. We were going to Sundance together one year, And she was like, okay, I'm going to eat vegetarian. Like we're traveling together. I'm going to eat vegetarian for you. We'll see how I like it. And of course she loved it and never looked back. So so that's really cool to think about too, because I actually hadn't thought about that in a while. But yeah, it's interesting. It really interesting, to be faced with medical, like such an intense medical issue as needing a hip replacement for the first time, like since I've been, out of my marriage, and like not having a romantic partner to help care for me was really felt really lonely at times. And I started like Googling, doing research on like being sick and not having a romantic partner. And like, I just have so much like empathy and love for all the people that are dealing with that, because there are so many people. Like if you're in a relationship or if you're not sick, it's so easy to not think about things like that. But once you're in it, you're like, holy smokes, there are probably so many people in the position that I'm in right now. And I'm so lucky that my mom was able to take 2 weeks off of work to come take care of me. And the bright side of that is really, I haven't lived at home since I was 17. And so if I had a romantic partner, I wouldn't have gotten to spend 2 weeks with my mom as an adult taking care of me. And like, that's something that I'll remember forever. So I'm really grateful that I had that time with her. It was really special. And now I'm ready to meet my partner. I'm like, okay, I got my time with mom. I'm ready to get remarried.
Hayley's dating, everyone. Candidates. I was very interested in, the tough times that you went through and are going through and will continue to, right? Because we're human. But we read about you seeking help with EMDR and also EFT, which is like tapping. I'd love for you to share some of those techniques, what was most helpful, how you even found them. Yeah. And how they helped you.
So both of those techniques have been so incredibly life-changing for me. But what's so interesting, because I'm kind of coming out of this dark period with my recovery, is sometimes it's like you get so in it, like when you're in chronic pain, like I couldn't walk. So even before my surgery, I was on bed rest. Like I couldn't function. Every time I would get up to have to go take my dogs out or go get water or whatever, I just could, like the level of pain I felt I'm actually like, I need to book an EMD session with my EMDR therapist to kind of metabolize some of that pain that I think is still like in my brain, like still that I'm still mentally, just the memories of that pain are so there. But when you're going through something that's so physically intense, it can be really hard to reach for the light. So there would be days when I would almost get down on myself for like not meditating that day or not, thinking all the positive thoughts. And so I just want to say for people too, like, that's okay also. Like I think I had a habit of like beating myself up because I'd be like, oh, I feel so bad right now, but I'm not meditating. I'm going to watch another episode of Seinfeld and being like, shit, that's not what I need to be doing. I need to be doing, but the thing that is great about EMDR and especially EFT, which you can do on your own, and I use an app called the Tapping Solution, is that it is a really easy thing to reach for. And they have tapping meditations that are as quick as like 3 minutes. And once you connect to that light, even for a few minutes, it makes such a big difference. And so I did, whenever I could, I reached for those things, those tools, and they did help so much, especially like I said, the tapping, because you can just do it at home.
Right. Is it easy? I want to make sure that we're clear. The EMDR is eye movement desensitization and reprocessing. And it's a psychotherapy treatment that was originally designed to alleviate distress, if you will, associated with traumatic events. So interesting cross-section with emotional and physical pain. How did you use it? I mean, what for those of us that are like, oh, wow, this is the first time I've heard of EMDR, which looking at your past and journey was my first time in even hearing about it. So what is it exactly? Like, what do you do?
So normally so both EMDR and EFT, you have the same basis, which is bilateral stimulation, meaning that there's something happening on one side of your body and there's something else happening on the other side of your body, and it helps rewire your brain. I'm not like a full expert in either one, so I don't want to misspeak about the science behind it, but because I started EMDR during the pandemic, we did not do it in person, but from my understanding, when you're doing EMDR in person, there's usually a paddle that you hold in each hand, and one will like buzz and the other one will buzz, and you'll kind of go down a path of memories or creating a world guided by your therapist. And since mine was on Zoom, I used similar tapping techniques where I tapped on my like sternum, like right by the front of my shoulders. And my therapist would guide me from there. And then the EFT is sort of similar too, because you're tapping on meridians of your body while repeating certain language back.
Wow, fascinating.
It's funny because I listened to this morning to Sandra Bullock, an interview with her on the Red Table, which is the YouTube channel Myths have. And she actually says that she used what sounds like EMDR for after her house was broken into and she was in the house.
Oh, that's gotta be awful. Yeah.
Yeah, she realized how much trauma and that it helped her immensely. So basically, yeah, she talked about it as rewiring. And so anybody who is dealing with any kind of pain, right, Hayley, we can reframe it in our mind so that we're not replaying it. It's not affecting us in the present.
Exactly. And I'm proud of myself that I'm one of those people who's never afraid to reach for help. Like I'm, and I would encourage others to do the same. Like there's always a community ready to help you, no matter how lonely you feel, no matter what you're going through. And it's just a matter of like plugging into the right places, following your intuition. Like in the morning when I wake up, before I look at my phone, I just imagine just like literally like a socket, like plugging into my higher power, plugging into whatever this thing is that's greater than us, which kind of helps me get out of my own way. But yeah, like life is tricky, and it's great that like humans have found these different healing modalities, and I'm open to all of them. I need all of them.
No, I've done tapping and my husband's done tapping. And I know that Ian, it really helped him a lot. He was obsessing over certain thoughts. And so just to rewire his thoughts really helped.
Yeah. And there is such a direct correlation between what's happening in your mind and what's happening in your body in a way that I always knew, but just became so profound to me during this pain and surgery that I was recovering from. Like health is really one of those things that is so easy to take for granted until you lose it. And it can be as simple as something like your shoulder hurts or your thumb feels weird or whatever. And then it'll be like all you can think about. But like, it's so easy in life to be like, I want to achieve this thing. I want to do this. I want to do that. And that's amazing. Go out and do all those things. But this was such a good time for me to reflect on the fact that I'm so lucky that I have the health that I have, and that, that I had access to a great surgeon, that hip replacements are something that are very like medically successful, and that generally I'm a healthy person. Like, wow, it's just health is wealth. Health is, it's everything.
Talking about physical health right now with your hip, but you've also dealt with depression. And when I heard you talk about that, I was surprised because you have such a positive energy and a brightness. I don't know if the brighter you are, the more depressed you are. No, tell us about your depression, how you've coped with it.
Well, yeah, it's funny because I do present as very like bubbly and outgoing, and that is definitely an authentic part of who I am. Like it's never put on. Like, I love people, I love connection. I do naturally see like the positive in things, but I think I always just have this idea in my head that like, the lower you go, like the higher you're able to reach. And like, I'm able to like experience so much joy in just taking my dogs for a walk and smelling a rose, or, you know, being like optimistic and sunny, because I have had to deal with some very real life issues and have felt so alone at times. And so I think I'm able to reach those heights because, I mean, it's okay. It's like the perfect yin and yang, right? Like everything finds balance, and I'm wanting to say equanimity, but I might just, that might definitely not be the right usage of that word, but I'm able to go reach those levels of joy, I think, because in direct correlation to like the sorrow I've felt of just having a human experience, you know?
It seems like some of the brightest lights hold some of the darkest corners.
Yeah, and it's interesting because I work in comedy, you know, and it's like this, I've done stand-up, but I don't identify with being a stand-up comedian, but there are a lot of stand-up comedians that have dealt, I mean, just artists in general, actually, but especially people whose like their job is to make other people laugh, have dealt with depression. And I think it's because we see the minutia of this, like, I don't know, the painful experiences or life, awkward things. And we know to like, there's this idea, there's almost this like court jester thing where it's like, you kind of take what's painful, you take what's uncomfortable, and you know how to turn it into a joke and to laugh. And that's a survival mechanism. It's kind of what we were talking about in the beginning with like, you know, people who were enslaved, like the joy that came, you know, the joy that was brought into Black churches and into Black homes, and the laughter and the spirit that people had to, that was what got them through. That's like what kept them alive. So I think that's also just been the same since the beginning of time, you know?
And how do you cope with depression? Did you take antidepressants, or do you just exercise and take care of yourself better, reach out to people? What do you do?
I definitely do a combination of all of it. Nature has just been so great for me, which is why, again, it was really hard for me during my surgery because I couldn't get out and like do my walks, or I couldn't like hop on my Peloton, you know, like those things have been so great for me. So I'm really happy to be coming out of that now, but I do any and all things, Reiki, crystals, therapists, like I do all of it. I'm also an LA girl, you know, so that stuff is like so readily available at our fingertips here. Everyone you meet is a Reiki master, you know?
Hey, friends and listeners of the Switch for Good podcast. Yep, that's you. I have some really exciting news. Dotsie and I have started a Switch for Good podcast Facebook group. We created it so we can build a community of fans that will help us improve the show and deliver on the topics that you want to learn more about. So we want to hear what your favorite content is, what you want more of, and what you want less of. And if you like the length of the show, Dotsie and I are always talking about the length of the show, right, Dotsie?
Yes.
We want to tailor our show around the needs and desires of our incredible listeners, almost 500,000 of you. And it's really simple to join. Just go to our Switch for Good Facebook page. That's Switch, the number 4, and then Good. And then click on groups. And there we are, the Switch for Good podcast chat. You can post directly in the group, share ideas, talk to other listeners, and connect with like-minded folks. So go, run, join our Facebook group and tell us what you want. Speaking of taking things that are painful and turning into things that are, well, funny or entertaining, you have a podcast called Datemare that you started since your divorce, and I guess you've started dating, so yay. And it's basically a discussion of nightmarish dates, and and what you learn from them and your guest learns. And so give us an example of maybe an interesting date that you've shared on the show, or that one of your guests have shared on the show. Yeah.
A juicy one.
A juicy one. Oh
Juicier
my
the
God,
better.
that's so funny. Well, I think what I've really enjoyed about doing this podcast was I had never really dated intentionally before. Like I would kind of just like meet someone and we would hang out and get along and end up in a relationship, and which I think is very normal for someone who is, in my 20s and teen, like, of course I was just hanging out and having a good time. But I had been like in and out of relationships. It was always like it wasn't hard for me to date. I wasn't dating intentionally. So I'd never been on the dating apps before. Or have either of you guys been on a dating app?
I've been married
No.
I've been with Ian for 27 years. And
Okay.
Josh, I think you've been.
I'm at 20. So that's a no.
Oh my
No.
God. You guys are
No.
so lucky. Like the dating stuff has become so funny in just like the small details, like little things. Like I was on Hinge the other day, and Hinge is one of the most common dating apps. And you can choose your own prompts. So they don't give you questions that you have to answer. They give you a series of like 50 questions, and you just have to choose one and come up with an answer. Like just come up with something cute and funny that shows a little bit of your personality. So one of the prompts is a shower thought I had recently. And like most people would fill it out with like a cute, interesting shower thought they had recently, Some guy who hit like on me on Hinge said, a shower thought I had recently. I haven't had one, but I hope to soon. And it's like, so you don't think when you're in the shower, like there's nothing to think about. Like there's always something to think about. So
I think he meant he hadn't had a shower recently. He was joking probably.
with Hinge, anything is possible. But I actually am excited to say that I've gotten off the dating apps in the last few days. Like I am on it. I still have an app downloaded called Raya, which is like it's like, I use the word celebrity, like in quotes, while I'm kind of rolling my eyes a little bit, but it's like kind of like a person of note dating app that you have to like go through this approval process to get on. But a lot of people are on there like for clout or because it's cool or whatever. But I have recently gotten off the apps just because it was kind of like a novel thing for me at first. And then now it just feels like not really a direction that I want to send my energy. And so I'm trusting the universe to bring me my partner in real life, at least for now, at least for now. We'll see what happens.
Okay. From these dating apps, juicy date story. Have you gone on a date, I'm assuming?
So in the pilot episode of my podcast, I bring on my friend, Nicole Thurman, and I'm telling her a story about a date that I had just gone on with someone that I met on Hinge. And as I was reaching out to like shake his hand and say like, hi, I'm Hayley. Nice to meet you. How are you? He comes right out and tells me that the IRS had garnished all his wages that day.
Oh my God.
And this is like a grown man in his 40s. And he was like, the IRS robbed me. I mean, I just kept telling them like they didn't have my right mailing address. And I'm thinking to myself, I'm like, you're like 44. Like at 44, you know that you have to pay taxes every year. Like sir, you knew you weren't paying your taxes. And this man was gainfully employed. So it was like a choice that he wasn't paying his taxes. But I just thought it was so interesting to me that like on a first date, within minutes of meeting me, he told me this story. Like this was his first date story that he also just kept being like, man, I can't believe I'm telling you the story. I told myself the whole way here that I wasn't going to tell you the story, and hearing him telling you the story. And so and then he had like an allergy attack during the date, and he was trying to blame it on the spicy food. But then he told me that he's actually had allergies for the last 5 years, but he's like not on medication for them. And I'm like literally praying. I'm like, God, please. It was our waiter's first day on the job. So they were like moving slow, and like the amount of mental energy, like I felt like I was trying to like move a pencil with my brain. Like I just kept being like willing the waiter to come over with a check so that I could get out of there. And I went home and I was texting with a friend of mine about the date. Come to find out, she had gone on a date with the same guy 5 years earlier, and he also pulled some crazy stuff with her. So it's like these people are just getting like recycled in and out of the dating world.
What was the point? Was he trying to get something from you? Like, was he trying to get something from her? Was this a shtick, or did that really happen?
I think he's really out there looking for love, and just it doesn't have a guidebook on how to do it, and probably needs to do some deep inner work. Like there's a level of, someone once told me like it's easy for like sick people to find other sick people. Like if you're not doing the work, if you're in, not choosing to like better yourself or live in some level of like light or enlightenment, it's really easy to find other people like that, because that's the energy, that's the frequency that a lot of things vibrate on. But once you start waking up, once you start doing the work, once you become really clear about what you want, it's harder to find people at that level. And now, because I've kind of been through it, I know what I'm looking for. And actually, I just wrapped up the first season of my podcast. So I hope everyone goes back and listens to, we have 11 episodes in the first season. And it was really great to have a space where I could share this super personal journey, because it went from just being about sharing funny date stories to really kind of like what you said, like learning about myself. Like I would kind of find myself in these situations and I would go, what does it say about me? Like dating, if you do the work, really gives you an opportunity to heal the deepest part of yourselves and to work on the greatest relationship, which is your relationship with yourself. But now I've finished the first season of the podcast. I hope people go back and listen to it. And I'm excited to see what's next as I energetically shift. Like as I energetically shift away from the idea of like a bad date and really open myself up to, like, just as corny as it sounds, like love and light, and see what's next for me. And in order for me to get to that place, I did need to share these stories about these funny things that were happening to me, because man, people are wilding out here, especially dating in Los Angeles. Oh my gosh. So people are, it's hard, y'all.
I think people better listen to that first season, because I predict you're going to not have many more dates and you're going to fall in love quickly.
Oh, I will take, thank you. Thank you.
I agree with the vibrational thing. I just finished reading a book about that, and it just makes sense. And
what book was it?
Something Your Life is Waiting by a woman named Vicky somebody. It's quite an old book, but it's basically the same law of attraction kind of philosophy that, we probably were all reading in the last like 10 years ago. A lot of people were reading. So, but it just makes sense it's not even very woo-woo.
Yeah.
It's actually, it's physics.
Right. Yeah.
So
yeah.
Now you're doing the work, and after this hip, you will have gone through even more and, grown even more. And so, yeah, I know you're going to
listen, I'm ready to shake it, baby.
Can we talk about your acting career, Dotsie? Are you game to go into that, or did you have any other questions on change?
No, absolutely.
Were you discovered by Cindy Crawford when you were sitting at a restaurant in Malibu? Because that's like the 2000 equivalent of what, being at the drugstore on the corner of Hollywood and Vine in the 1950s.
I know. It sounds so made up, to the point where I've asked my parents multiple times. I've been like, Mom and Dad, do you swear to God I was discovered by Cindy Crawford? And they're like, yes, Hayley, it happened. Like, so that's the story. I think we were at like a little restaurant in Malibu, and she came up and she was like, this kid's got a model. And
you're little girl at the time.
I was a little girl. Yeah.
Oh, okay. How old?
Like too young to even really remember this story. Like I was probably like I joined the Screen Actors Guild when I was 7. So
Okay.
it was before then. So I was younger than 7 years old. And she gave my parents her agent's card, and my parents called her agent and they were like, we don't represent kids, but here's some agencies that do. But what's so interesting is like, just how, I don't know, it's so cool how things work out, because there was never a world where like my parents pushed me to do what I do. Like it's always been the only thing I want to do. Like I connected so early. Yeah, I guess that's kind of cool to think about that way, because I'm such an intuitive, consciously connected person that it makes sense that like I just kind of came out knowing what I wanted to do and found a way to make that happen, because my parents, when I was working as a kid, were always very clear, like, you don't have to do this, and I was like, no, I want to.
So have you ever seen Cindy since then and thanked her?
I have not. I have not. I'm hoping that she doesn't start sending us cease and desist where she's like, stop telling people this story.
As we're going through this interview, those that are watching on YouTube are seeing your gorgeous, insane, amazing hair. So beautiful. And early in your career, you did Deal or No Deal with Howie Mandel for like 3 years in your briefcase model.
Yeah.
And we heard that they did an episode that was inspired by your hair, which you've worn natural for forever, since the beginning.
Since the beginning of my career. Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah.
And so how did were the stylist, did they have any idea how to style black hair? Did you have to style your own hair? Like, what was this episode about your awesome hair?
Well, this whole experience was just so great for not only me and like my own healing after getting teased so much for having my big curly natural like afro hair. When I was at the audition for Deal or No Deal, I auditioned with my hair the way it was, and then I would do this thing at the time where I would then also hand them a headshot of me like with straight hair and a wig, because that's all you saw on TV. And so I did the audition. I went to hand them a photo of me with straight hair to be like, because I can also do this. And they were like, we love your hair. We would never want you to change it. It's amazing. So I give such a big shout out to the producers of Deal or No Deal, and also to NBC, because at the time I was the only person on, primetime cable wearing their hair like that. And that's not to say that I was the first person to ever do it. Like Pam Grier, Rachel True, like other amazing Black actresses have been, and the list goes on, who have worn their hair natural on television. But during this time, it was definitely not the thing. And as an actor, the idea was like, you weren't going to get a role if you didn't straighten your hair. And especially, the Deal or No Deal girls were literally on a pedestal of like considered the most beautiful women in the world at the time. To allow me to wear my hair curly really was an important like moment for the culture. And so the episode that you're talking about is called The Fro Show, where they had all the girls put on pink fros, and except for me, because I already had the fro. So all the other girls got to wear their fros. And there was a girl contestant that we had named Dantia Greer, who had been teased her whole life for wearing her hair natural. And she lived in a very small town, I think in the South. And she said that people stopped making fun of her in her town when Deal or No Deal came on, and they saw me, and she had to be like, well, look at Hayley, she's a model on Deal or No Deal. And so she came on to be a contestant on the show, and they even flew me to her hometown to go surprise her. So it goes back to veganism in the same way that I really try to be, I am intentional with how I live my life, even if it's not always the easy thing to do. It's just all that I know. Like, I know that I lost jobs because I wouldn't straighten my hair. I know that, maybe I don't get an invite to like a picnic or talking about dating, but guys get intimidated by the fact that I'm vegan all the time. Like, but I have to live according to my truth and what feels right for me. And it was always I always knew like, I'm not going to straighten my hair so that I can fit into these like society's, ideal beauty standards. when it was just yesterday that people were making fun of me. Like, I want to wear my hair natural so that other little girls will see me on TV and they'll have representation, because I grew up feeling so alone and so bad that I was this girl with an afro and there was no one around me who looked like me. And same with veganism. I've always been very vocal about my veganism, because these are issues that I believe in. And it's kind of the idea of like, if you don't stand for something, you'll fall for anything, you know?
Ooh, yeah. I like that. That is very badass of you. I love that whole story.
A lot of people don't know, if they're not in the makeup chairs and in the makeup rooms of Hollywood, or even a lot of white actresses didn't realize, myself included, the lack of knowledge that hairstylists had to deal with women's black hair on a set was astounding, because most of the crew was white. And so the white women didn't know how to style black hair. So it was up to black women to do it themselves.
Yeah.
Can you talk a little bit about your experiences and how it's changed?
So I've done my own hair on almost every project I've been in, and I have hundreds of credits. And still to this day, I, for the most part, do my own hair. If I go to set and there's someone that knows how to do my hair and will actually get like creative and fun with it, it's like a game changer for me. Like, I was on a show called AP Bio, an NBC show that became a Netflix show. I recurred on it in 2021. And that hair department was so amazing and so good. The stuff that they did with my hair was incredible. And it was one of the only times that I had that experience. So still I show up and I just plan on doing my own hair. And it's because, you know, kind of everything is geared towards, you know, like white people, like, you know what I mean? So in beauty and hair schools, learning how to do black hair and makeup was an elective. Like it was, and if you took it as an elective, it was just one day. And so I have been on so many TV shows and movies where I'm like, oh God, I don't feel great on that show. And it's hard to act like when you're putting yourself at being an actor is very vulnerable, like bringing a character to life and doing it in front of the crew and your cast and the network, the studio who's stopping by, and then millions of people who are going to watch it. And so at the very least, it's like you want to feel comfortable with however you look in this character you created, and not having that is hard. And it's not just Black people, like, well, first of all, it's not just Black women, like Black men need barbers, like they're, you know, dealing with their hair it might be different than if you were dealing with predominantly white men would be. My friends who are Asian deal with it as well. You know, really it's a systemic issue. But one of the things that we're fighting for in this strike is different levels of experience and capability when it comes to the hair and makeup department. So I think it's still going to be a case by case basis. I think it's probably easy to be like, yeah, I have experience doing Black hair. I have experience working with, you know, whatever race. But that doesn't mean that they're always going to be good. I don't know. We'll see. I still expect to probably have to do my hair a lot of the time.
Well, in contrast, I've been an actress for over 40 years and I've never had to do my own hair. So that's just a huge, huge contrast. And I feel bad that I never realized. Well, I didn't realize that Black hair was different than white hair.
Right.
But it's very different in how you have to take care of it. And like you said, everything. I'm just so happy to see more makeups that are more than just the beige that is, you know, my color. And even Band-Aids are getting to be different colors.
Yeah.
And stuff I never realized coming from my own bubble. So
I think that was my mom's experience too, because my mom is white and then she had a daughter and like had no idea how to do my hair. So like dealing with my hair in my childhood was, talk about like a trauma. It was another traumatic experience because my mom would be like, your hair is getting knotted, nothing is working, the comb is breaking in your hair. Like she had no idea what to do. I'm crying. I'm going to school getting made fun of because my mom sent me out of the house looking insane. And then I would go to my Black side of the family's house, and, you know, it was a time when, you know, again, like we talked about, like what was accepted in society was Black people having to straighten their hair. So my Black grandparents would be like, why aren't you straightening this girl's hair? And like, it was such a thing. So it was also really crazy, just like also having a mom who didn't know how to do my hair. So I really kind of had to learn on my own. And now I think I found something that's working for me.
Yay.
Well,
Now, I know we've talked about Cindy Crawford, hair, and modeling, and now I have another question about Barbie.
Yes.
Because
Yes.
no, wait a minute. We need to say, we should have said this at the beginning of the show, just before you go into this, there are 2 Barbies on this show and I'm not one of them.
Oh,
So people just go
I
ahead.
have a Barbie. I have a Barbie too from a character. And
Oh my God, that's amazing.
she doesn't look at all like me, and it's weird. It's from Baywatch, and myself and Pamela Anderson have a Barbie, and we both have the same face. And of course, they gave my Barbie boobs, which I don't have, and we have Pamela and I have the exact same face, but just she's got long blonde hair and I've got brown hair. So,
oh my God, that's still
Hayley,
epic though.
Your Barbie story is amazing. So tell us about your Barbie story.
So I was a model for the Black Barbie for I don't even know how long, but like years and years, meaning that I was on the back of boxes of the Black Barbies. They sketched me for certain projects. I was in commercials. And there's actually a documentary coming out. I don't know what the date is because we just premiered it at South by Southwest earlier in 2023, but I'm in a documentary too about Black Barbie. The focus is on the woman who created Black Barbie, which is amazing. And they just bring me on to do like some interviews about what Barbie meant for me. But it definitely goes back to one of those things of like just having that representation when you're a kid and getting to be like, I'm on the box of Black Barbie, but like while still dealing with insecurities, like I still was being raised with people who didn't look like me. So that was also kind of interesting too, because it's not like I was on the back of a Barbie box and like thought I was like, cute and amazing. I still was like an awkward person, like, whose mom didn't look anything like me and was struggling to like find my own place in life and family, and which is kind of like we're not allowed to plug anything during the SAG strikes, but is very kind of in line with the exact storyline of the Barbie movie. If you've seen it, like Dotsie, like it's like we're all Barbies, like everybody is. We're just all out here like having a human experience, trying our best,
Yeah, I think I saw you because I just took a friend's niece to the World of Barbie Museum on 3rd Street Promenade last Thursday. And
oh my God.
So I definitely saw you. And I didn't see any athlete Barbies. I want to know when that's going to happen.
Yeah, wait, are there not athlete Barbies?
I just never seen any, and they went through all the years of Barbie, right? From 1959 till now. And I didn't see one. So I'm going to maybe I need to go back and talk to them about that. Cause that would be so out of the box, right? Like the bodies and everything.
Yeah. Tell your listeners to all email Mattel. We'll just send some mass email, some change.org petition.
Yeah. Yes. There's like astronaut Barbie, and there's nurse Barbie, and there's executive Barbie. Yeah. There's a lot of great Barbies. That's for sure. But I didn't see any athletes. Anyway. All right.
Yeah. We need that.
On that.
I wanted just to move to your activism before we close out the show and talk about, I saw you as a host for the Mercy for Animals Gala last year, and you were amazing. Just such a buoyant, effervescent. How did I describe you? Effervescent. You were
force of nature.
Force of nature. Yes.
You were that. You were totally that. You are meant to be on stage in front of people for sure. So lovely and warm. So tell us about I know you've done some stuff for Mercy for Animals. Tell me how you've melded your activism and your belief. You say you're outspoken about your veganism and your acting career.
Well, I guess one of the cool things about being an actor is that it comes with a platform. And so I've always been like, yeah, the brighter my acting star gets, that's in direct relation to like how much I'll be able to spread the word about veganism and animal rights and humanitarian issues. And so for me, that's really what's exciting for me about this is like, you know, if affecting change in the world. So to me, that's how they correlate, which is just, it gives just more opportunities to talk about how great veganism has been for me in the hopes that other people will adopt the lifestyle.
How do you feel like what is the feeling about veganism among your coworkers and peers? And when you would be on set, you know, what are they serving? And do they ask you why you're kind of modifying what's being served? Because,
Well,
you know, I don't know, I think of Hollywood as being, you know, pretty progressive. And I feel like all of Hollywood's gotten the memo, but I know they're not all vegan.
right.
And yeah, how is it morphing over the years?
So I
More
kind
towards
of
plants.
joke that like I did not, like when I went vegan 15 years ago, like I did not sign up for all this delicious food. Like it was like, okay, like I already like did the work to come to terms with like iceberg lettuce, and now the food is so good. Like vegan food is so good, and there's so like everything you can get vegan, and it's delicious. And I'm like, this food is too good. Like I can't handle it. So for the most part, it's like a non-issue, although bringing it back to dating is really funny because I matched with this guy on Hinge. She's also in the entertainment industry, different behind the scenes, but still in the entertainment industry. And we were doing like I like to do FaceTime dates before I meet someone in person. And so we did a FaceTime date and it was going really great. And then at the end, I mentioned, like very casually mentioned that I was vegan because it like wasn't, it's like, to me, it's like not even a thing anymore. Like, so I was just like, a vegan. And you would have thought he said that I was an alien from outer space. Like his reaction was like, he was so thrown off. He was like, what do you like? Well, I'm not vegan. Is that going to be a thing? Like, what do you eat? Who gets thrown off in 2023 that someone's vegan? Like, we all need to be going vegan. Like this is in 2007, you know, this is crazy. We hung up the phone and I was like, well, I guess that's not going anywhere. And then he sent me a text that was like, okay, I'm Googling some vegan recipes right now. Like, okay, it looks like this actually is doable. Like it was like this little mental breakdown for him, like where his mind was expanding. And so he was like, I want to take you to your favorite vegan restaurant, which he did. And then we're no longer seeing each other, but we're still friendly. And it's cute because now he like wants to tell me like every time he's eating something vegan or like ordering the vegan option, like it's like a little way for him to like show off for me. He's like, out with the fellas, and I ordered the cauliflower drumsticks or whatever. Like, and I'm like, okay, points for you. But, you know, maybe that's what my dating journey is all about. You know,
Activism.
I course I could get back in the world and get more and more people to go vegan date by date.
That is a great activism story. I thought it was going to be a date story, but that's incredible. Good work.
Oh, well, Hayley, thank you so much for being on the podcast. We really appreciate it. And we know you're going to heal quickly with your hip and get out there again and acting and socializing and activizing. Tell our audience where they can find you in the meantime.
So you can find me on my Instagram, which is at Hayley Marie Norman. Everything you can know about me is there on the Insta. There's a little link in bio that pulls up clips of mine and essays I've written and photos and stand up and a bunch of stuff. And the link for the podcast is also on there, but the podcast is called Datemare with Hayley Marie Norman, and you can find it wherever you listen to your pods.